One way of describing what was shown, although I'm not sure these exact words are in your review, would be that there was a toxic culture in Downing Street in the Cabinet Office at the time. And the inquiry has heard evidence, in fact heard evidence yesterday, of the repeated use of extremely crude language in, for example, WhatsApps sent between members of the Downing Street team. Was that, do you think, one aspect, or perhaps a product, of that type of toxic culture that you are reporting on in your review?
It was definitely a toxic culture.
The inquiry saw yesterday some particularly crude WhatsApp exchanges between Dominic Cummings and Boris Johnson about you.
If I have to come back to Helen's bullshit PET, designed to waste huge amounts of my time so I can't spend it on other stuff, I'll personally handcuff her and escort her from the building. I don't care how it's done, but that woman must be out of our hair. We cannot keep dealing with this horrific meltdown of the British state while dodging stilettos from that.
Was Dominic Cummings part of that toxic culture, part of the problem?
The things that Mr. Cummings, having seen those messages, it was, it's horrible to read, but it is both surprising and not surprising to me, and I don't know which is worse, actually. I think that he was frustrated with me at the time. I would absolutely own that. I'm sure lots of this is not for you, but the two things in particular that he was cross about, one was the appointment of David Frost as the National Security Advisor. Mr. Cummings in those messages is also frustrated with me and says that I was sacking special advisors, which I never did, would never be my role. The particular thing that he looks to be extremely cross about in the August is because we were involved in an employment tribunal where he had in fact dismissed a special advisor, and I was insisting on him telling the truth to the employment tribunal, and he didn't respond well to that. So, yes, surprising and not surprising. It wasn't a pleasant place to work. It is also revealing of exactly the wrong attitude to the civil service, if I may. I was doing my job as a civil servant, and that I'm confident about that, and the way in which it was considered appropriate to describe what should happen to me, yes as a woman, but yes as a civil servant. It's disappointing to me that the Prime Minister didn't pick him up on the use of some of that violent and misogynistic language.
Well, that was going to be my next question, because Mr. Cummings has been asked about the messages that he sent. But of course, is the point you make, which is that we have seen that Mr. Johnson was a participant in not just that WhatsApp group, but plenty of others where this sort of language, that sort of abuse was used. And drawing on your experience in the Cabinet Office, what is your reaction to what appears to have been his failure to try and stop that sort of language, that sort of attitude prevailing?
It's just miles away from what is right or proper or decent or what the country deserves.